Thank you for your service, Mr. Secretary General, and thank you for being here. I've just come from a vote on the floor, but before that, a hearing of the Judiciary Committee where FBI Director Comey was testifying about many subjects related closely to the subject matter of your testimony. Even though the geography may be different, the threat is the same. And clearly, the strategy for confronting that threat of terror has to be coordinated and targeted to what poses the danger to our nation. And my feeling is, I agree with you, the reality is we are at war. That's the stark, irrefutable reality, and more needs to be done, more aggressively, more intensely, and more effectively in using our special operators, advising local forces, supplying and equipping them, providing them with intelligence, intercepting communications of our adversaries, and cutting off the flow of money, which is their lifeblood. And the pace of our present activities seems inadequate. Now, we may differ on that point, and you have more on-the-ground knowledge than I do, but the American people are growing impatient and apprehensive. I think that statement, in fact, is an understatement. So I would like to see our strategy become more aggressive and intensify in combating this threat abroad, in the theater where we confront ISIL, and at home where we confront terror in our neighborhoods and streets, and where the adversary is just as real and potentially growing just as alarmingly. Are you satisfied that the intersection and coordination between those two efforts in the Middle East and elsewhere in the world and internally at home is sufficiently aligned and coordinated that we have the most effective strategic approach?
I met just yesterday with Director Comey, also along with the Director of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. John Brennan's out of the country, but his somebody from CIA was there, and other agencies working to do exactly what you rightly know is necessary, namely to align our efforts overseas, which involve exactly the ingredients that you name. And you're right, we are looking for opportunities to do more by using precisely the tools you described. We're finding them, and we're strengthening and gaining momentum in the military, which we need to do because we need to defeat ISIL over there as soon as possible. Back here, we haven't. It's a different kind of challenge, but it's related. Director Comey's working extremely hard and skillfully on that, and the purpose of my calling this meeting yesterday was precisely to make sure that we're all aligned. And we'll continue to do that periodically. And there are things, by the way, that we can do as DOD, even though we obviously don't operate here in the United States the way the FBI does, in terms of striking their information infrastructure in the same way we strike their energy infrastructure, their command and control, and so forth in Iraq and Syria.
I thank you for that answer. I agree totally that the efforts need to be aligned, and in fact, better aligned, more seamless than they are now in terms of intelligence sharing and intelligence gathering, but also working with our partners in the region, because the troops on the ground need to be local. We cannot send American troops back to that part of the world in massive numbers with a combat mission. There's always the danger of mission creep, even in the small number, but I remain dissatisfied that the number of special operators on the ground may be insufficient, and the pace of sending them there may be too lengthy, and that local forces like the Peshmerga have shown that a robust effort involving all of those ingredients that are planned to be sent can make a difference if they're timely and sufficient. And I agree finally that an authorization for the use of military force is absolutely essential. The reality is we are at war, and the President deserves a declaration of war. And that declaration may define the kind of conflict that we see and provide a forum for debate about the limits we may want to put on them, but at least it will provide a framework for public support that the President needs for this continuing war. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.